Welcome to Core Concepts. I'm your host, James Renford Powell. This is a show where we have numerous religious leaders, spiritual leaders, sometimes philosophy, whatever, come and tell us what they believe, why they believe it, and what they're doing about it. In other words, how did they come to this perspective or this view of life, and how's it manifesting in their lives? Now this series of lectures can be found, if you're looking at it somewhere else, it's found on the Renford Broadcast Network on YouTube, and there are other things such as the Bookman Show and the Laws of Material Wealth program, Music with Meaning, and now we're beginning to add movies to the scene. So come and visit us on the Renford Broadcast Network. Our guest today is Brian Miller and Sonya Miller, High Priest and High Priestess for the only federally recognized Wiccan Church in Memphis, Tennessee. And they will be moving, they tell me, into new facilities on Summer Avenue. Maybe they'll tell you a little bit about that as well. But welcome to the show, Sonya, Brian.
Thank you very much.
And have at it.
Well, we're going to start this out a little bit to find a common ground since we live in a Western civilization. And first of all, I want to tell you that, yes, we are Wiccan, and that is a term that is sort of a blanket term by the federal government. But you ask yourself, how does it start off? Well, in the beginning, we were all polytheistic. All of us were. And that is where most people associated with paganism. If you look, some of the first images that we find are of female goddesses that you would say look like mother, a very mothery figure. And as time went on and we developed war tools, you started to see, even in our culture, you could look at the mythology and you would see that gods came into play. And gods were married off to goddesses. And then we had couples, and then you have children of gods. And still polytheism went on. And eventually, as we all know, history changes this with Constantine, and Christianity is adopted as the official state religion of Rome. And from this point on, polytheism is laid aside, and monotheism becomes the majority religion. So, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I want you to know that what most people really balk at is that paganism or Wicca believes in polytheism. 98% of people that practice Wicca is polytheistic. And that means that we believe that the idea of source, or God or goddess, is so large that you can't just give it one name. It has several names. You can name it Jesus, you can name it Buddha, you could name it Isis, you can name it Osiris, you can name it Hera. Whatever you name it is whatever relates to you, because you are an individual. So therefore God and goddess relates to you, the individual. Well, in 1950, Gerald Gardner wrote a book, and it is called Introduction to Witchcraft and Wicca. And it's important because by the time it came to the United States in 1956, it had revolutionized the world. And people realized that Wicca was a lot more than what it seemed. He had created a system that was usable for people all over the world. Almost like, well, if you were a Protestant, we have Methodists, and we have Baptists, and we have Pentecostals, right? Well, Wicca took the big idea of paganism, which is polytheism, and it created the system to narrow it down, to make it really simple, so anyone could do it. And when he wrote this book, of course it becomes controversial, but it is speaking to the people, because the people still practice the faith. They only did it behind closed doors. And so this made people think there must be something funny about it, because you didn't meet a lot of people that said, hello, I'm Wiccan, right? But the reason why they did this is because if you think about it, they were being persecuted by almost like a big clique in the time, right? The majority of people worshipped one way, and so the minority worshipped this way. And so what they would do is would keep it silent, because they were worried if people knew about it, they would lose their job, or they would lose their property, or their children would suffer, or, let's be honest, they could be arrested or killed. Not much later, 1968, in the United States of America, where we have freedom of religion, something monumental occurred. Oberyn Zell founded the first legal pagan organization. It was called the Church of All Worlds. 1975, the second one is founded, Covenant of the Goddess. 1978, the Aquarian Tabernacle Church, Pete Pathfinder, founds a legally recognized Wiccan church. This doesn't seem like it's very important, but it's huge, because this means then our ministers are established to be equivalent with any other faith. In 1986, Denham versus Landon goes to court, and it is understood by the U.S. Supreme Court that Wicca is considered a federal religion. Why is this? Because we have ethics, we have tenets, we believe in an afterlife, and we have a value system. And all of these things had to be proved in court. 1992, the military acknowledges Wicca as a federally recognized religion, and now if you serve in the military, your headstone can have a pentagram on it, which is huge. Because before this point, if you didn't believe anything that wasn't Christian, or Muslim, or Jewish, you had nothing on your headstone. And if your faith was very important, and you chose to be a spiritual person and devote your life to it, that meant that you couldn't have any communion at all with your gods, and no sacraments were given to you at your death. And yes, we do sacraments. Do you have any questions about any of these things so far? Alright, so let me tell you a couple of tenets of our faith. Number one, we believe everything is connected. The table, the sky, the air that I breathe, all of these things run on the same pattern, the same source. We don't believe that we're above nature. We're not commanding it. It's not here to serve us in any way. The earth is not here to serve me. I cannot own land. It was here before me, it'll be here after me. We are not the masters, and we live in harmony with everything. Sure, we're humans. We're going to make mistakes, but we try to live green and in harmony, which, as you can see, is actually a very trendy thing right now. But before it was trendy, we believed in it. We believe in a concept called the threefold law. That means that we believe that everything we do, good or bad, the universe pays you back for it. But you don't do something good to get payment back. You just do it to do it. And if you do something to harm somebody with a harmful intent, it will come back to you. And some people call this term karma, right? All right. And we have a big rule that everybody seems to be confused on, and it's called harm ye none. And this means that you should try, to the best of your ability, to not harm anyone or anybody in anything that you do. Of course, that could be strange. We all know that there's Buddhists and Taoists that also believe this, and so sometimes when they sweep out the doors, right, they'll open the doors so they make sure they don't hurt the bugs. Well, I wish I could tell you that I was that wonderful, but I'm sure there's times that I step on the sidewalk and I step on ants. But I don't try to harm anybody, and before I make choices and decisions, I try to consider how it affects everybody as the whole. And so what I like about that concept is that I am not as important as the whole. And all choices I make, all of these, I understand that because I'm connected to everything and everyone, that with every choice I make, with every word I say, it affects not only myself, but you, and you, and you, and you. We have another law. It's called love. Love is the law. When it comes to making a decision, you don't make it from your head. You don't make it from what society tells you should do. You don't take it from peer pressure. You don't pick up the phone and call mom and dad. You don't flip in a book. You take all of these things into account, and then you sit quietly and you listen to your heart. And you wait and you take a breath and you reach out to the source, and your heart will tell you the right thing to do. And as long as you make a choice from the warmth inside your heart, you know that you are doing the right thing, that you are in attunement with the laws of the land and the universe, because love is the law. And lastly, we believe in personal accountability. That means the common sense thing of almost physics. Everything you do has an action and a consequence. If you do something, it's going to lead to something else. So if you do something, even unintentionally, that hurts someone's feelings, you should apologize and try to make it right. So what sets us apart from other faiths? Well, number one, this is the strange one that really throws people. It's magic. You could be a lot of faiths, but Wiccans believe in magic. So what is magic exactly? A lot of people in our faith will define it differently, but I define it as this. Magic is when I will things to occur and see a physical manifestation of them in this world. It would be something as simple as I could plant a seed, and the minute that I plant it, I put my hands on the ground and I visualize the little green shoot growing up and it growing into a beautiful, perfect plant. And the next day I come out and look, the shoot's already planted and it's already growing up. And you and I know that a shoot doesn't grow that fast, right? I believe that's magic. We believe in reincarnation. It's very hard to find anyone. In fact, I don't think I've ever met a pagan that doesn't believe in reincarnation.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yes, we definitely believe in polytheism. We're not monotheistic. We believe that the concept of God is not just male, but it is male and female, like yin and yang, male energy and female energy. And it does not exist outside of you. It exists inside of you. It exists inside the plants, inside the air you breathe, and the water that you drink. And the whole goal in life is all about balance and discovering what's inside of yourself. Because we have a tenet that says, how can you find it outside of you if you cannot find it within you? So why do you seek for God and Goddess outside of yourself, when in reality you know it resides within? We do not believe in hell at all. We do not believe it, but we do believe the concept that you can create a hell for yourself if that is what you want to do. I do not believe in the devil. I believe it is a concept that has been created as an antithesis to Christianity and to Jesus. I believe that as humans, it's very simple for us to think in terms of black and white, good and bad. But if you've lived over the age of 30, life is not that simple. And there are lots of shades of gray. I believe in the concept of karma. What is karma? Karma is the fact that if you believe in reincarnation, you understand that we're all here to learn, that the earth is a wonderful planet that has all kinds of fabulous things that involve your senses, right? And your sight, and your sound, and your touch, and interaction, and communities, and people, and you can learn from everyone and everything. But when you came into this body, into this soul, you came with all your previous lessons. And so all the things that you're here to do, they're not bad. The universe doesn't hate you. The source doesn't think you're evil. It just wants you to learn. And so you've got a tactile learning environment to learn this in. And so then when you cross over and leave your little body behind, what you do is you choose to come back again. Yeah, I believe you choose. And when you choose to come back again, you come with a little piece of paper and you have assignments to share. And this is karma. All right, so this is the part where Mr. Miller's coming in, because we have to come to one little last thing. Most people that are pagan worship in 3 different groups. They're either what they call a solitaire, that means they worship alone. They're a triad, which means they worship in groups of 3 to 5. And you find that most people in paganism are not solitaires, because we as humans, we're not very solitary. We're very communal. We like people. We like smiles. We like laughter. We love hugs, right? All right. And lastly, most people associate witchcraft with covens because we've watched lots of television and we read lots of books. But in reality, covens are sort of moving away, and I'll tell you why. Because covens have no legal rights. Covens are usually groups of 10 to 13, supposedly. But most covens I've ever met are around the size, usually around 5 to 10. And if you can't have any legal rights and you want to go worship, that causes all kinds of complications. And so it is that we decided, Brian and I, who had this dream, that we would make a transition. And that's what we want to talk about. Why a church rather than a coven?
Well, before I really get into that, I'd like to expand on one thing she said. And I think a lot of people wonder why we choose goddess and God over just God or just goddess. As Wiccans, we see the feminine and masculine in everything. I can look at my wife and I see feminine and masculine within her. I look within me, I can see feminine and masculine within me. Same with everybody sitting here and the trees outside. So when we go to worship, that's why we also worship a god and a goddess, because we see the feminine and masculine both in the divine. So I think that's probably a good way of clearing up on why we do worship God and goddess. Okay, why church rather than a coven? We started out basically as a coven to get a core group for our church. The reason that we wanted a church over a coven is because when I started in paganism over 20 years ago, we were really prosecuted, I guess you could say. I marched with a guy named Terry Riley back in 1993, where they were taking snipers off the tops of buildings during our march. That's how bad they were to us. I mean, they were burning people even farther back than that. And we thought that it was more important to become as legal as we can and step out and show people that what we're doing is not evil, and what we're doing is really good, because we're good people. We worship nature. We are kind people. And they had a lot of misconceptions. Now, covens are usually secret. They meet in secret. Everything they do, the rituals they do are secret. Their names are secret. My teacher, the first coven she got in, she never even saw anybody's faces in that coven. It was so dangerous to be pagan back then because it was so misunderstood. And we decided, since the things that we have gone through being pagan, that it would be best to be completely legal and to have everything out into the open, because when you hide, then people are going to think something suspicious about it. So being completely legal and having a legal church where anybody's invited, everything we have is open to the public, then people can come see what we really are and see that we're not doing anything bad, that we're loving people, and that we have good energy. So that was very important to us, and not only to see that for us, but so my children don't grow up, if they decide to be pagan, and go through the exact same things that we went through. I mean, being kicked out of homes. There was a lot of things that happened. I mean, even 10 years ago, women had lost children for being Wiccan and divorces. So in order to get this out and to have this stop, you have to become a legal entity. You have to be protected by the government. And you have to have everything open so that anybody can come in and see that what you're doing is a pure and good thing. So we went with, and we decided to try to become a charter of what was called the ATC, the Aquarian Tabernacle Church, and we applied, and we were lucky. We got,
We were blessed.
we were really blessed. Out of 360 applications or so, we were one of like 2 or 3 that was chosen as an affiliate. What we did, we had to send in resumes, we had to send in, spiritual resumes, our regular resumes. They did background checks on us. I mean, it was a very strenuous process to get this, and it was pretty costly, but it was worth it, because in the end, now we have a legal 501c3 church.
And our clergy are legal.
And our clergy are legal, and we're getting that also.
What, is there a hierarchy?
Yes, this is all a hierarchy church, correct. We have a hierarchy within our own church, and then we have a hierarchy within the Aquarian Tabernacle Church. So with us, there's kind of like a double hierarchy. Being this also, we are completely legal reverends. I'm Reverend Brian Miller, and this is Reverend Sonya Miller. We marry people. We carry people through rites of passages. We go to hospitals when people are in hospitals. We do everything that every other clergy does.
Which we couldn't do.
Which we could not do before.
Beforehand. Can you imagine having your people go to the emergency room? They call for their priest or their priestess, and the minute we show up, we can't be there because we have no legal rights. We have no legal credentials. And so our people could not have rites of passages from us. And this made a difference.
And even if they go to court and somebody brings up say that they are pagan, comes up, we can come in with our legal paperwork and go, we're a legalized religion.
Well, we
can't
don't
even
do that
bring this
about
up.
everybody.
Well, yeah, no, but
For our members of
for
our
members,
church.
yeah, we can come in for our members and go, we're a legal church and we're federally recognized, and that stops it all right there. It stopped all the women getting their children taken away when you're legal, and all of this that has gone on in the past. So our thought was that if we could make this completely legal here in Memphis, and it would be the best thing not only for us, for the pagans, and for the children coming up that want to be pagan, so that they don't have to go through what a lot of us has gone through. Well, that was great, and we did it, and we were really happy. And so we looked and decided what would be the next step of paganism. And we said we wanted a building, just like the Baptists, just like the Methodists, you know, and everybody else, because we are completely federally recognized legal church.
And we were tired of going out in the cold and tired of getting rained on.
And if we met in a park, there were, you know, we don't mind people coming and seeing, but we don't want a big spectator sport of it either. So that's why we wanted a building. So we got our first building, and we did not know this, but when we got the building, and it's a building that nobody lives in, it's a church building.
It's not a house.
Yeah, it's not a house. We were the first ones to do this.
No, we didn't know that.
We did not know this.
But all the other people did.
Yeah, but all the other people told us about it. We were just trying to do what we thought would be the next step. And we're hoping that people will take what we've done and do it themselves, and that you'll start seeing churches pop up all around the United States now in our religion. Because it is a pure loving religion.
And there's advantages to it.
And there is many.
Because you can still be in the coven and be in the temple. Because we have full moons and we have new moons and we worship all Sabbats. In the past, people only gathered together for Sabbats. So all the covens around in the city of Memphis would only get together for Sabbats. However, that causes issues because you only see each other once every 3 or 4 months and you're not getting enough socialization.
It's Sabbath, it's Saturday.
Well, a Sabbat,
Okay,
or no, actually, here's what's hilarious about this. Okay, Christmas is originally Yule, right? That's our holiday. Easter is originally Asatara. That's our holiday. We do not practice Halloween, folks. It's Samhain, okay? Samhain, which is very close. The Catholics call it All Saints' Day. We believe, I mean, literally the same concept. We literally put out an ancestor altar. Anyone that's crossed over, you light a candle to. It has nothing to do with Halloween, but we do like putting on costumes and going to get candy like everybody
Because
else.
that's fun.
Yeah, we have May Day. You dance around the maypole, right? You remember doing that when you're in elementary school? They don't do that anymore, but that sure was fun when I was little. How did I know I was going to become pagan? And then we have the Midsummers things, and we build well, some people sing the Wicker Man. I wouldn't consider that a good example of what we practice, but you build together like a big scarecrow, and you put all these things in there. It's a symbolism, and everyone dances around it and you light it on fire. No, we don't practice skyclad. That's with no clothes on is what we... In fact, actually, I'll be quite honest with you. I'm sure there are people that do, but I have never met anyone that practiced skyclad in public.
Yeah. So our Sabbats are, there's 8 of them a year. So we have 8 huge holidays a year. Just basically what that is our Sabbats. And Esbats are the cycle, or the new and full moons that we worship. So that's the two Sabbats and Esbats when we talk about those that we worship. That's the difference between the two. But in becoming legal and doing this, it was a huge step for our religion. They have been fighting to be legal since the 60s at least. And by getting a building now and by doing what we have done, it has really propelled the community to look for good leadership now. To where before, if they went to court, you couldn't have your high priest coming with a high priest of the covenant or something come in because they'd say you're not legal, you don't have any credentials. Or they couldn't go into ICU and see somebody who's passing away and bless them before they go. But by being legal, we have changed all that. And by getting the building, we took it to the next step. Now we're trying to figure out what the next step is.
Well, let's tell them a few things that we've accomplished though for the city of Memphis also. I think that's important. Every church has charities, right? Well, I don't think the pagan community really had thought about all that before, but once we got the building, we're like any other faith. We believe that if the gods are fortunate enough to bless us, that we should give back, right?
To the community.
Yes. So we sponsor the Memphis Gay and Lesbian Community Center, and we stock their food pantry. We stock their clothing pantry. Every Sabbat, food is taken in, and we call it the Cauldron of Prosperity. It is a celebration of the fact that so much prosperity has come to our families that we give to the food cupboards. 2 to 3 times a year, we give to the clothing cupboards. We march every year in the Memphis Gay and Lesbian Community floats, and we put stuff up, and we sponsor them with our blood, sweat, and tears and our money because we believe in them. We have sponsored the Memphis Public Library also, and we help with their book drives, and we donate books because we're into education and we're into literature. It's not about us trying to sublime, teach subliminal messages. This is about us showing you that we're people like anybody else. We work normal jobs, we do normal things, and we have nothing to hide. We have Spiral Scouts, a non-denominational, nature-based, like Girl Scout, Boy Scout troops, which has nothing to do with any religion. It's non-denominational, so anyone of any path, people of all families, either you're adopted, you're from a bi, transgender, gay home, you can come here and you don't have to worry about anything. And we have sponsored an AA group that is non-denominational, so that people that aren't Christian can come here in the South and they can go to an AA group and not have to worry about not believing like everybody else. And that's what we've done in 1 year.
And it's legally chartered too.
And we are legally chartered. In September, our church will have been founded for 4 years, but since we've had a building, that's what we've done in 1 year.
And one thing you have to understand, with us being clergy, we don't consider ourselves just pagan clergy. We're clergy to everybody. The first weddings we did were Christian. The first funeral I did was Christian. We don't consider ourselves just for the pagan community and clergy just to them. If anybody needed clergy, that is what we are here for. It's no different than anybody else. Being legal and being this way, if we turn down anybody just because they were another religion, then that is going against what we believe.
Which is all paths lead to the same destination. We believe all paths are equal. All paths.
Yeah, we believe there's many roads up the mountain. It's just which one you take is the one you walk.
And let's see. Does anybody have any questions? Is there anything you've ever wanted to know? It's okay.
Okay. Do you all celebrate Beltane?
Yes, we're coming up on Beltane. Yes, we do. We're
Yeah.
coming up on May the 11th. We will have Beltane at the Temple of the Sacred Gift starting at 5 p.m.
I'm going to invite you to ours, and
Yay.
and you can invite me to yours.
Yeah.
Good. You
We'll be
definitely
dancing around the
should.
maypole and having fun.
Yeah.
Are you gonna hop the fire?
I'm not really the sponsor of it, but I'm almost sure all of the rituals are based on Glennis Livingston.
Yes.
Okay.
I understand that tradition. So you'll probably be doing the spiral dance. Yes, it's all about like leaving behind all
I'm
your
going to
fears and
learn.
embracing something new and letting change happen in your life.
I'm going to learn at Open Heart Spiritual Center. over
Yes,
in
I've been there. It's a really wonderful place, a beautiful place.
John Gilmore, and he's been on the show as well. You started with a question.
I actually do. You talked a little bit about the moon and how the moon, I don't know if you worship on the moon, but I'm interested. I like the moon. So I wanted to know what significance does it have to your religion?
Okay, the moon typically is associated, on average, associated with feminine energy. What do we mean when we say feminine? What you mean when you say feminine is two things. Number one, it is very receptive, and it also, we call it, if you're ever quiet, have you ever done yoga? Or meditation? All right, have you ever noticed how when you do some patterns of energy for yoga, when you're really quiet and you'll breathe, you'll notice that sometimes it seems like it swirls, right? That's divine feminine, okay? All right? And if you tend to do the male energy, it's gonna seem like it projects and goes up and down. But you didn't know that, right? Okay, so one is circular and creative, like the womb, and that's typically associated with the moon, all right? So the moon, the way we do it is we worship on new moons and full moons. What's the significance of that? On a new moon, anything that you want to start, let's say that you want to start looking for a new job. This would be a good time when we came together to ask your guides to say, hey, would you help me look for a new job? That doesn't mean you can sit on your couch and do Nintendo games. That means you are doing your part and you're asking them. And when you say that, what you're also saying is within 30 days, it's understood that by the full moon, I will have results to the prayer that I have asked you. It will manifest, okay? On a full moon, you usually ask for your heart's desire. Now that's a little tricky, right? Some people see that and they go, oh, that means I'm supposed to do a love spell. No. What that means is you're supposed to stop and really think about it. What is something big and monumental that you would like to do to change not only yourself, but understanding that when you change yourself, it changes your world, right? And it changes your perspective. What are some things that you want to work on? And those are the kind of things you do. Now, when we come together as a group, we do more broad terms. Like this last one we did, this last Saturday when we did one to help us remove obstacles and blocks that were getting in our way to help us grow spiritually. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's a good thing to do for a full moon. That's a perfect example. There are people that live by every cycle of the moon. The new moon, the waning moon, the waning, the waxing, and the full moon, and the dark moon. The dark moon is a time when you don't see the moon. And they say on the calendar the moon is void. And that's when you do magic or you do spells, they say, to remove obstacles of things that you think that you want to get rid of. Like if you want to stop smoking, that's a good time. If you want to get over some pain and loss, like a death, that would be a good time. When we talk magic, a lot of times people have to understand that term seems really odd, but everyone does rituals. Catholic churches do rituals. Baptists have rituals. A format is a ritual. When you get up and you brush your teeth and wash your face and shave your legs and do your hair, that's a self-ritual. You are ritualizing yourself. That's no different than when you go to a Hindu temple and you watch them bathe the god and they dress the god and they lay out offerings for the god. It's the same concept. And I will be honest with you, can't argue, probably scientifically we can prove that subconsciously it turns on a trigger within yourself to help manifest change. Isn't that interesting?
It changes vibration.
Yeah, because everything on this earth vibrates at a certain different level. And so all you're trying to do is you're trying to find what is that balance point and how to live in harmony with things. So,
Did that answer your question?
does that answer your question?
Okay,
Follow up?
but yes, could you show us examples or give us examples of your gods? Is the moon one of your gods?
No, I don't worship specifically in moon. Okay. All right. For example, I worship, personally, we have what we call patriot gods and goddesses. This means that after a long, long time of you worshiping several gods and goddesses, you get to a point where you're like, well, I'm going to pick one face to represent the feminine energy and one face to represent the male energy. Do you understand what I mean when I say this? Because there's millions of names for gods and goddesses. I worship a complicated goddess who I love very much, and her name is Isis, is how you know her. She has 10,000 names. Most people know her as the Virgin Mary, Madonna with Child, the Black Madonna, right? But those who know her and know her best know her by her truest name, which is Lady Isis. So this is who I worship. The god I worship is Osiris. Ryan worships.
Well,
Both going back to Egyptian.
right.
Yes.
Right. Let me back up a little bit on this and explain. When the government actually got confused Wiccan and pagan in a way. With Wiccan, in the way that the government has it, it has so many umbrellas up underneath it. Like with her following the Egyptian path, she's put up underneath Wiccan. We have people who follow the old Druid path, and they're put up underneath Wiccan in our religion. We have people who follow Celtic, different Celtic paths, Hindu paths, and they're all considered Wiccan in the government's eyes. So when we're a Wiccan church, doesn't mean that we follow this one certain way. We have many different religions that are in there that people practice personally. I'm what's called eclectic Wiccan. Is because I don't follow a true pantheon like Egyptian or Druid. I call them
Pantheon means a certain category or class of God.
correct, and that's really what pagan means. But the government put it under Wiccan umbrella instead of pagan. So being Wiccan, we have many and many different. And one thing that is so different about us compared to other religions is we teach you how to find your own path. We don't tell you this is the way we believe and you should believe this way, because the way I believe is not going to work for you because you're a unique individual. So we teach people to find their own paths. We don't dogma them into one way. This is the way that you've got to be, and if you don't be this way, then you're not right. Because everybody's different, and everybody has their own way of worshiping, has their own way of doing everything like that. So,
Do you see this this pantheon or these various things as aspects of deity or God as a whole, or do you see them as and are separate manifestations of God, or do you see them as literally totally separate entities?
That's really due to the interpretation of the individual.
Of the
That's where
individual.
people sometimes get a little confused with us.
Because if you do the Hindu gods, you recognize them as all aspects
Yes,
of
yes, we have Hindus in our temple.
Mhm.
We have people, okay, and that's the interesting thing about us. When you come in, you'll notice there's Athena, and there's Isis, and there's Odin, and there's Ganesha, and there's Buddha, and there's, you see what I'm saying? And Kuan Yin, and there's Amaterasu, and there's Odin. And here's the beauty about this. All of those answers that you give me are absolutely possibly correct. Because none of us really know, do we?
with where it's
No, I don't
separate
know. I can't
manifestations or
tell
what?
you what, yes, I don't know. I don't know that. Now, I do know that I have a relationship with Lady Isis. I do know what that feels like.
Like
I
a
do
Christian
know.
might have with
Yes.
Jesus.
I do know that I have that relationship, but I do not believe she is the only possibility. That would be ridiculous to me as a person, for me to believe that. But if you believe that, I'm okay
we
with that.
support that.
Yeah, well, we've had South American shaman, we've had Native American here, and we've had North shaman people who are talking about the Nordic version. And are those represented also?
Yes, there's actually a huge Nordic presence here. I mean, there's a lot
In
of
the-
people who
in-
follow
in
the Nordic
Memphis.
in the Memphis and surrounding
Mhm.
areas.
One of
And
my
they are
teachers
all
is a shaman.
They're all pagans or underneath the umbrella of Wiccan, according to the government. They all are. And the thing that Wiccan did, it gave you a format to worship that you could plug your gods into and worship with everybody. And that was one of the brilliant things about it.
So if you go to Scotland and you go to a Wiccan group, sure they'll have little songs that they may have that are different than yours, just like if we sing Yankee Doodle Dandy in America and you go over there, they sing God Bless the Queen, right? But the truth of it is the format's going to be the same. If you're Catholic here in America and you go to a Catholic church in Ireland, sure they're going to have little bitty differences, but overall, you know it's going to be the same. And that's what Wicca does.
Now, how do you see the traditional Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, others? What is Wiccan view of these teachers?
The Wiccan view of these teachers is no different than anybody else's view. I mean, that they were great people. Like they believed that they walked over, they believed, a lot of people believe Jesus walked over. And so it's really no different than anybody else's. We have people who follow Buddha but worship him in a Wiccan format. Then when they go home, they may do it in the complete way that Buddhist does it. So you see, as a church and as a congregation, it gives us a format to worship, but it's not the exact same what you do inside your house a lot of times because of that. Like we have the Nordics, when they worship, they do like floats and cymbals, is what they're called. Well, when they worship in public with us, they worship in this format, but when they do their own thing at their house, they do more of the traditional of what they do.
Is there anything that you would call a holy book comparable, say, to the Quran, the Bible, etc.?
I think so, and I'll tell you why. I feel that we have more books to offer because ancient prayers and songs to all the gods and goddesses that have ever been written, ever, are pretty much our Bible if you think about it. I mean, for the Egyptians, you can read the Book of the Dead, the Laws of Ma'at, the Pyramid Text, and then, I mean, you could go the rest of the days of your life and never memorize all the different prayers to over 1,500
Are
pages.
they gathered together in one publication?
No,
at a time?
and that's the beauty of it. The path is crafted exactly for you to do the work. You're not going to be spoon-fed. You have to
That's
do the
true.
work. You cannot sit in the pew and expect to learn. It is a hands-on journey, and that is what life's about. It is a journey, it is an adventure, and it's about an active participation. That is what we believe you are here for, to make the world a better place.
Even in our church, we have degree system. And even if you make it through and all the way through the last degrees, we can make you legal clergy. So we have like a first degree, a second degree, and a third degree.
Does it go up to 33rd degree like?
No.
No,
No,
I don't have much
actually,
energy.
I don't like the fact that it says degree. Here's what it's like. It's like college, okay? If you go to college, you're a freshman, you're a sophomore, you're a junior, and a senior. So we have a system like this, okay? And if you're Baptist and you go to a theological seminary, you go to college too. Or you could go get a master's or a PhD if you go to college, right? So if you go through our system and you finished, when you were done, say you go for the 4 years and you get a senior degree, then we give you the title of High Priest or High Priestess. This means that you have earned the right to teach what you have learned on your individual path with students, with the good graces of us.
And that's a fixed program.
Yes.
Yes.
However, if you choose to be clergy, we ourselves will see this. You can desire it, but we will invite you to take the clergy courses, and you take 2 years of training, and then we give you an apprenticeship, which is hands-on training. Because just because you've learned through books doesn't mean that you are really cut out for it. So we're trying to keep it on the same level as a normal seminary. As you notice, we are what we call a new trend, which has hit all paths, really. The Christians are just really struggling with this. We are full-time workers who are also full-time clergy. We do not get any money from our clerginess. We aren't paid.
It's
This
like
is-
the Mormons.
Yes, exactly. Your job is where you get your insurance and your payment from. The calling is for clergy for you to serve. We serve. So if you really want to become clergy, that's not something I can teach you from a book. You can read all kinds of books, but until you walk the walk and see what it really takes, it might not be right for you.
And you said you were invited to teach a course at a seminary?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I am. I've been invited to teach at the Wolstein Theological Seminary, and that is the Egyptian path. I'm teaching Egyptian mythology, and I'm explaining how the mythology is applicable to your everyday life, and how when you read these stories, that they are spiritual texts, that they are metaphors with secrets and mysteries involved in them, that you can only understand if you sit back and you see the allegories and you see the symbolism for what they are, which is not literal, meant to be taken literally, but meant to be taken figuratively, so that they transform your world and you walk them all the time. Do you understand what I mean? Yes.
And another thing we do that's really different is we also have what's called men's and women's mysteries.
Yes.
And
These are one of my favorite
And
things.
I'm a sponsor, or our church is a sponsor of something that's called Brothers of the Sun Weekend. And during this weekend, we take men and we show them what phase of life they're in, how it affects their magic, why they think the way they think. And it goes through 3 stages of life of man. Like women have mother, maiden, crone, and men are squire, father, and sage. Like when you're a squire, you're the young buck, you're wild, you're doing things, you're trying to figure out yourself at that point, until you start gathering, well, I really like this, and you start gathering things in, and you go, this is what I'd like to have in my life now, and you start becoming the father after that. So we teach people what stage of life they're in, and give them the rights, and mentor them, and give them the rites of passages for that stage of life. And that is one thing that has been forgotten among our society. Because people go through these stages of life and have no idea they're going through them and what they're going through. But this teaches you what you're going through, and then gives you a whole group of people for help through this stage of life. And that's one thing we're really proud of, is the rites of passages we do like that. We do Wiccanings, which is most
Baby blessings.
Baby blessings. We do quite a few different rites of passages. We give rites of passages for first days of schools, for kids. We do a lot of things like that to help people through the phases of life that they're going through also.
Now, is there, in all of the variety that is there a doctrine or, let's say, dogma, a creed, other than what you've already read to us when we started? Does that
I think
constitute?
it's really, it is exactly what I would tell you, which is that the law of return, which is everything that you send out in this world, everything that you do comes back to you in some way or
You
another.
call it giving and receiving.
Yes, giving and receiving. Secondly, harm ye none. And third, love. Love is the law.
Yeah, I mean, we believe a lot in what you put out, you get back. I mean, if you're a positive person, you're going to get something back along that vibration. If you put out negative or different thoughts, then you're going to get something back along that vibration too. And that is also one thing that I think a lot of people wouldn't believe.
I don't think you ever answered the question about the moon and how do you worship the moon specifically. No.
Is there a ritual involving the moon or
Yeah, that's what people are known for. They ask about the drawing down the moon because they read Margot Adler, right?
No.
Okay, Margot Adler is a famous historian and anthropologist and psychologist. She's beautiful mind, beautiful woman. And if you've never read it, you should take the time. It's not pagan. It's just very well educated. And there's another book called When God Was a Woman
That's a very good one.
by Memphis Tennessee. Yeah, well, if you're a woman, though, I suggest you take it in small bites because you might find yourself getting a little angry when you realize that religion shifted for other reasons, political reasons. Yeah, so, however, the reason they call it drawing down the moon is we believe that everything's connected, right? And when you go out and you're standing out and you look at the moon, just think about this. You know when you were a little kid and you used to reach up and you pretended like you grabbed the moon, right? You remember that? Or you tried to touch it because it seemed so close? That's the concept of drawing down the moon. It's when you look at the moon and you reach up and you feel as if you're touching it, and all of a sudden, when you look at that sky and you'll feel it almost feels like sunbeams coming down, right? And you get really quiet, and you and the moon are breathing as one, and all of a sudden you notice how the moon dapples all the leaves and what it feels like and it smells like. Wow. Drawing the moon down into yourself. It has seeped your pores and your spirit and your eyes, and it's affected everything that you see. And that's what drawing down the moon really is. Isn't that interesting?
It really is, and I've always felt that, I don't know, I've never knew that there was a kind of like a ritual for it, but I've always had that connection with the moon, and I said, why do I feel so connected to the moon and not the sun? And I don't know if the sun has anything to do with
primarily women resonate with moon cycles. We are 80% made out of water, more so than men. Water and the moon are connected together. And to be frank with you, your menstruation and your ovulation is tied with the moon cycle. You can, next time that you do either, mark it on your calendar, and I bet you'll figure out that you have one time of the moon you like better than the others, whether it be new, full, or waning. She smiles, she knows this to be true. And you will be able to tell a lot of things about yourself from this thing. I mean, literally, you can find out when you conceived, when you would be the best time to conceive. These are old things, and women have always, always, always worked more on a moon cyclical cycle, much more so than the sun. And so deep in your DNA, since we're all connected, sweetie, you really remember this. And we call, at our church, say, the clergy is not here to teach you. We are not up here and you down here. I am here to remind you of all the things you know, and right now, you just remembered some of it.
Very
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, Jim.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I just want to share that I recently was able to attend a crowning ceremony.
Absolutely.
And it
Nice.
was magnificently, powerfully beautiful for the messages there. That was something not really in my awareness so much there. A lot came from memory, but that was a very beautiful experience. And then, question, what if I appeared at your church what would a typical service worship look like as far as format?
Well, when you first showed up, we usually wait about an hour and people just sit around and mull around.
Yeah,
You
talk,
talk,
get to know each
we
other.
get to know each other. Of course, like any church, people know their people, but we try to make sure that everyone is met and greeted, right? And then whether you like it or not, in any social situation, right, you're gonna find some people that you have more in common than others, right? And then we call it call to worship, isn't that right, Brian?
Yeah.
And we all gather hands in the middle, the people that are facilitating the worship, and we sing a song.
Yeah, well, what the format of it is we worship in a circle. We don't worship up front and have people in seats in front of us. Everybody stands up, they can stand. We have older people that may have to sit down, but we worship in a circle, and we call it a circle. And then Sonya and I, or whoever's running that ritual, is in the middle among all the people, because we do something where we, spend energy and things and send it up their crone, and all that is done in a circle. So the format would be like you would come in and then, kind of like meet and greet, and then we would usually have the worship circle, and then after the circle, we usually have a big potluck, and then we kind of sit around and talk.
There's always communion. Okay, most people know communion, right? This is my body, you eat the bread. This is my blood. Well, guess where that came from? The Egyptians. It's for the Osiris. That's literally, you were eating supposedly the body of Osiris.
The verbatim here is drink of this fruit of the vine that represents my body, and eat of this bread that represents my body, and the blood is actually right, almost verbatim.
Yeah.
This is also, yes, but they do this for the raising of Osiris too. You're absolutely correct. And also they say, Osiris says, I am the way and the truth and the life.
Mithra may have got that from the Egyptians.
Yes. And so if you come to our worship circle, you're right. That's the funny thing. People come from other denominations and they're always going, wow, this is different. Y'all all stand. We stand. We stand. We sing together. We talk together. We work on the same concept together. And then after it's all over with, we have what we call cakes and ale. And that's really what you're used to. And when I give it to you and I give you a cookie or a piece of bread and I say, may you never go hungry. And then you take it to the next person and you go, may you never go hungry. And every person passes it to the next person and you give each other a blessing. And then we give you something to drink and you have a cup. Each person has a cup and you say, may you never go thirsty. And then you look at your neighbor and you say to their eyes, may you never go thirsty. And everyone in that circle says that. And then after it's all over with, we do this wonderful cheer and we say, may you never hunger, may you never thirst, and may we always have a roof over our head. And then we beat the table for good luck, because that's what we say.
One thing we do in the circle is everybody in the circle is basically in a one mindset, because we're orchestrating like one thing, like removing blocks from people. So when we get where we sing and we raise energy, everybody's concentrating on removing blocks of the people that are in that circle. And I think that's one of the other things that we're different about, is we all get on the same vibration by doing different things like singing or chanting or however we do it. There's different ways. And then once we get on that same vibration, we release the intent of our worship at that time. And that's another big difference that we have than somebody just standing up and talking, is everybody's involved. And everybody's helping everybody out, including the high priest and high priestess in the middle. So it's a little different, because you are standing there, you are concentrating on the same thing that everybody else is, and trying to change the vibrations.
However, we've been told by our Christian friends or by their relatives that they bring, that they'll go Sunday after they've been to our service on Saturday, and that their minister spoke about the same thing on Sunday that we spoke about on Saturday, and we just presented it in a different way. And that's the beauty, I feel, of our path, is that you could go to our church, and while we might seem a little different to you for a minute, it's almost like, I remember I was raised Baptist. The first time I went to a Catholic wedding, I thought that was strange. I mean, I really did. They kneeled a lot, they said a lot of things. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know how to do Hail Marys. I didn't understand the communion, because Baptists are really sit in the pew, pass down the plate kind of thing. Even the communion was passing down the plate. Well, so if you come visit our temple, right, our church, we're the same way. It's like you're learning a new way of doing things, but what you'll find in common is that, oh, it's the same message. It's the same message wherever you go, right? The same message is it's about love. It's about laying aside ego. It's about understanding that we are not greater than the planet, that there's nothing that you can blame things about. You can blame things on. And we really don't believe in a judgmental, horrible energy going, no, you're bad, you're wrong, you know, that kind of thing. We believe that it's you that's doing
We
that.
got just a few minutes. I would wonder if you would like to have a parting message, a few words you'd like to say to our viewers.
We just want everybody to understand that what we do is pure and good, and that we try to help the communities, and we try to help the people, and that we are legal, and that we watch out for our children, and hope that everybody can come to the understanding that we are just like everybody else.
And I think I'd like to say that the bottom line is this. Brian and I believe, and so does the temple, that every person that you meet, everyone is sacred, and everyone has a gift to share. And that's the whole point of why we're here. You are a sacred gift.
And that's why our temple is called Temple of the Sacred Gift.
Contact information.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank Sonya, High Priestess, Brian, High Priest, for being with us today and in giving a great deal of detail about their organization and about their belief systems. We'd like to invite those of you who are watching the Renford Broadcast Network and the Core Concepts lectures to look at the other programs that are available there, to go to Radio by Renford, that's RBR Network there, that's accessed by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Renford. View the archives there. If you go back far enough, you'll find the High Priest. Brian has been a guest on the, I think at that time you were probably with the Searcher's Roadmap show. So I'd like to invite you to do that. And come back and be with us for the next Core Concepts. Have a good evening.